Today we're presenting Bringing Girl Scout Cookies to France. Let's talk strategy. This presentation is by Sophie Decker and Decker&Olsson. To begin with, we're going to be talking about the current leadership in Girl Scouts, and their influence on global expansion. So Miss Batty, she joined the board in 2014 as a CEO, and this was huge for Girl Scout Cookies because she wanted to roll out an updated software system that helped scouts, parents, and volunteers to enhance the Girl Scout programming nationwide. And she believed that she wanted to increase this racial diversity in the Girl Scouts because at the moment it was 71% white, while the US population was just 51% white. So she saw this as a problem, and she said that they needed to change this in order to expand it in an international business administration aspect. And she also believes that in the Girl Scout Cookies, leadership qualities are very important. So leaders need to be engaging, they need to discover, connect, and take action, and they need to learn by doing with cooperative learning and hands-on experiences. Next slide. Now, just to outline our strengths as our SWOT analysis touches base on this, we have product scope. So the variety of cookies addressing the consumer preferences and dietary restrictions at different prices is a huge strength for the Girl Scout organization. In addition to having an available digital platform and where the customers can support and buy online, that makes everything so readily available, especially in today's times. Limited market availability so that the competitors are brought down and Girl Scout cookies are limited so more people will want them. In addition to having a strong history and a strong brand identity that everyone can relate to and everyone feels sympathetic for. In addition, Girl Scout cookies, the organization has a strong social responsibility. They're a value provided not only to the customer, but also to the world. And they do plan on investing into the future and expanding into new horizons, you know, with their whole digital cookie implementation and having Girl Scout Cookie Day, in which it's a day devoted just to engaging girls and consumers. Next slide, please. Now we're going to touch base on economic policy. So in the Girl Scout cookies, there's been a drastic implementation and recent changes in this aspect. It used to be $4 to $5 a box. The trend is at a 25% increase, but the big change is no separate delivery, because instead of waiting for weeks for the cookies, cookies are delivered exactly when they're ordered. So this makes everything so much more efficient and makes the consumer want to order these cookies not only once, but twice and even 3 times. Now, I do see that having these cookies so widespread and expanded could lead to differences in taste, as there could be differences in bakers, especially when we're talking about an international change. So that's something we do have to keep an eye on. And I also think that when price goes up by a bigger percent than the proportional decline in volume, this represents inelastic demand. And with inelastic demand, total revenue rises when price goes up, as pictured in the graph. Next slide, please. Now, just to touch base on our weaknesses and how they impact our global expansion. These cookies are highly priced in other cookies, so this could be a big fault, especially when comparing to boulangeries in Paris, where you can buy a croissant for 75 cents. In addition, there seems to be a poor organizational management control just because everything's so new, especially when expanding internationally. Change in environment is a big one. Rapid change of social life allows for different interests not necessarily focused on Girl Scouts, and scarcity can backfire. Next slide, please. So how do we plan to address this? We're going to try to expand the organization to attract girls with different interests in different locations, ally with profit or nonprofit organizations so they can expand their efforts and attract more girls, and run advertisements, especially on online platforms where we know the youth is readily active on. Next slide. So about these social and sensitive issues, I think they're super important, especially the palm oil issue. This seems to really bring down the market for Girl Scout cookies. They use palm oil, which is an ingredient found in the majority of baked snacks sold in the United States. So when we do want to bring them over to Europe, for example, this is going to be a major con. They say that the Girl Scout uses this to ensure shelf life, to bring the highest quality products, and to serve as an alternative to trans fat. And while they continue to explore other alternatives, at this time, there's nothing viable as an alternative on the market. So that is a sensitive issue. Next slide. Childhood obesity, another one. They claim that the cookies should be enjoyed in moderation, and especially when dealing with young girls. They want to promote a healthy lifestyle for girls, which includes a well-balanced diet and plenty of exercise. They do advise the girls to consider ingredient contribution to their overall diet and portion size when choosing snacks like these. In addition, child labor is a big sensitive issue. So GSC does want to condemn the use of child labor and any exploitation of workers, and they did promise that the bakers are committed to working closely with the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, as mentioned previously, and to adhere to the Global Supplier Code of Business Conduct and Human Rights policies, including correcting or terminating suppliers who do not adhere to those policies. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to outlining some opportunities, again, touching from our SWOT analysis, there isn't much of a cookie market in France to break into, so that bodes well for us because there's not a huge amount of competition, and then French children will always have this snack after school like a goûter, and so we plan on aiming and marketing towards this audience. And then if the product is on the shelves specifically, that saves on organizational cost as opposed to what I think people from the US automatically think of Girl Scouts as this organization that sits outside the grocery store and has the members kind of hand out and sell the cookies. And then we would also be able to expand the brand name and the brand image by bringing it to Central Europe. So just to get the word out there more and to get more attention, and that could bring a lot of fruitful opportunities just by having that recognition out there. And then as far as social competition goes, when we are looking at the opportunities, there really aren't too many widespread known youth organizations like Girl Scouts. The closest one I could find was the UCPA, which is not even necessarily aimed at youth, younger people. It really goes, as you can see in the screenshot, all the way up to adults. You can really do anything at any age. I think the cutoff is at like 39 years old. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of social competition for the brand image and the brand name of Girl Scouts. So by posting advertisements and talking about these cookies and relating it back to the organization that's happening in the US, people will be able to really have it stick in their minds, and it will be impressionable because there's not really anything like it in France. And that could open the door to later on bringing over the organization, because as of now, we're just looking at bringing over the cookies by themselves. And then looking at threats, I think all have experienced the French culture around snacking is pretty minimal in comparison to the US. And this also relates to the indulgence scale or Hofstede's scale, looking at indulgence in France. As you can see, the US is in purple on the right there, and we're at a 68, and France is in the blue at 48. So they're less likely to indulge, to buy themselves that pack of cookies, to eat them in moderation and things like that. And then another threat could be approval for putting the cookie straight on the shelves. We would need to work that out, and we'll go into more detail on our paper. I don't know that we have the time to get into it right now. And then lastly, building a whole new infrastructure. So in terms of advertising and creating the social media, it's different because we aren't bringing over the organization. And so to our knowledge, Girl Scout Cookies has not branched out into the idea of only selling cookies, so we would be paving the way, which is also really exciting to kind of go back to the opportunities, because that really shows that this could be replicated in other countries and that it could become a worldwide product without having to do all of the work of bringing over the organizational infrastructure. And then I wanted to touch on the threats that, while I did mention that there isn't a huge market for cookies, there are some pretty well-known brands. And in my experience, I think French people really stick to the brands that they know. And so if they see one of these on the shelves versus another Girl Scout one that maybe looks a bit more American, the general French population may not go for that, although as we said, we are marketing towards that younger age group for the goûter. And so we think that we could, through marketing and advertising and things like this, really show that it's kind of an American brand. And I know that the younger population of France kind of has this obsession almost with American culture. And so we could kind of bring people in through that facet. And I also wanted to mention that, as Laura said, the threat for this boulangerie, like how are we going to get people to buy our packaged cookies over going and just getting a fresh bakery item, is another threat that we are planning on working through in more detail on our paper. So those are all of our slides for the presentation. If you have any questions or comments or discussion, we have about 5 minutes left, so please feel free to raise your hand and let us know. Thank you so much.